Officer Christopher Martins had seen 23 years of domestic calls, child neglect cases, drug busts. Nothing prepared him for what waited behind the door at 1247 Maple Street. 10 children, ages 2 to 14, laid out in perfect rows across the living room carpet, each one tucked under a handmade quilt, each one dead. And in the center of it all, 64-year-old Marla Dean sat upright on her floral couch. Hands folded, lipstick fresh, church dress pressed. When Martins asked what happened, she looked him straight in the eyes and whispered, "I gave them what their mother never could. Peace." You're about to hear a story that will shatter everything you think you know about love, about sacrifice, about the moment when protection becomes destruction. If this story already has you asking questions, make sure to hit subscribe. We cover the true stories that leave entire communities shaken. Marla Dean wasn't born to be a killer. She was born to be a caregiver. 34 years as a nursing aide, never missed a Sunday service at First Baptist. The kind of woman who remembered your birthday and brought soup when you were sick. But Marla had a problem. She couldn't say no, especially not to family. It started 7 years ago when her daughter Shireen showed up at her door with a black eye and 3 toddlers. "Just for a few days, Mama," Shireen had said. Those few days turned into months. The 3 toddlers became 5 children, then 7, then 10. Shireen was what people call a free spirit, what therapists call damaged. At 32, she had 10 children by 4 different men. None of the fathers stuck around. Shireen didn't stick around either. She lived for the moment, the thrill, the next adventure, road trips with new boyfriends, concert festivals, Instagram stories from rooftop bars with captions like "Living my best life" and "No regrets, just lessons." When things got complicated, an eviction notice, a breakup, a pregnancy scare, Shireen knew exactly where to go. Back to Mama. Back to the woman who would never turn her away. "I'll be back in a week," she'd promise. Sometimes it was 3 weeks, sometimes it was 3 months. Once it was an entire summer. Marla never complained. She just made room, moved furniture, split meals that were already too small, put 3 kids in beds meant for one, stretched her social security check until it screamed. She stopped going to her book club, quit the church choir, cancelled her own doctor appointments because she couldn't afford a babysitter for 10 children. The kids called her Meemaw. They clung to her cardigans and begged for bedtime stories. They drew her pictures and saved her the last cookie. They loved her the way children love the person who shows up, every single day. But love doesn't pay for groceries. Love doesn't cure the arthritis that made her joints scream when she lifted the baby. Love doesn't explain to a 14-year-old why his mother forgot his birthday again. The neighbors knew something was wrong. Mrs. Christy Williams next door heard the crying, saw the same clothes hanging on the line for weeks, watched Marla loading 10 kids into a van meant for 7. She looked tired, Christy would later tell reporters. Not just sleepy tired, soul tired. The school called twice about Emma, age 12, falling asleep in class. About little Marcus, age 5, coming to school in the same shirt 3 days straight. About Rebecca, age 9, hoarding food in her backpack. Child Protective Services knocked on the door in March. Caseworker Sandra Brooks found the house clean but cramped. The children appeared healthy but distant. Marla answered every question perfectly. "Are the children well cared for?" "Yes, Ma'am." "Do they have adequate food and shelter?" "Yes, Ma'am." "Are you receiving assistance from their mother?" "She helps when she can." Sandra noted the overcrowding, the fact that 10 children shared 3 bedrooms. But the kids were clean, fed, enrolled in school. Marla seemed competent if overwhelmed. Case closed. What Sandra didn't see was Marla talking to herself while folding laundry. The prescription bottles hidden behind cereal boxes, the way Marla's hands shook when she signed the children's report cards. The church ladies tried to help. They brought casseroles on Sundays, offered to babysit during the week. But Marla always declined. "We're managing just fine," she'd say with that gentle smile. "Bless your hearts for asking." She was drowning, and she was drowning quietly. It was a Thursday in late September when Shireen's car pulled into the driveway. She stepped out wearing designer sunglasses and stiletto heels, hair freshly done, nails painted red. "Mama," "I need you to watch the kids," she announced, not asked. "Craig's taking me to that music festival in Austin. It's going to be amazing." Craig was boyfriend number whatever. Shireen had been posting about him for 3 weeks. Pictures of expensive dinners, hotel rooms, weekend getaways. Marla stood on the porch watching her daughter unload backpacks and garbage bags filled with dirty clothes. 10 children filed out of the van like prisoners of war, tired, quiet, used to the routine. "How long this time?" Marla asked. "Just the weekend," Shireen said, already backing toward her car. "Monday at the latest." She didn't hug the children goodbye, didn't kiss Marla's cheek, didn't even make eye contact. "Love y'all," she called through the open window, already pulling away. The children watched their mother's tail lights disappear around the corner. They'd seen it 100 times before. They knew she wouldn't be back on Monday. Marla stood in the doorway, counting heads. 10 little faces looking up at her, expecting her to fix it, to make it okay, to be enough. That night, she sat at her kitchen table with a calculator and a stack of bills. The electric company was threatening disconnection. The rent was due in 3 days. Her arthritis medication cost more than groceries for the week. She looked around at the chaos, toys everywhere, dishes in the sink, homework scattered across every surface, 10 backpacks, 10 lunchboxes, 10 futures depending on her, 10 children who deserved better than this. Monday came and went. No Shireen. Tuesday arrived with the same empty driveway. By Wednesday, the neighbors noticed something different. The house was quiet, not normal quiet. Cemetery quiet. Mrs. Williams realized she hadn't heard the children playing outside, hadn't seen them walking to the school bus, hadn't heard the familiar chaos of 10 kids getting ready for the day. She knocked on the door Wednesday afternoon. No answer. Thursday morning, nothing. Friday, she called the police. "I'm probably overreacting," she told the dispatcher, "but something's not right. It's too quiet over there." Officer Christopher Martins took the call. Routine welfare check. He'd done hundreds of them. Usually found nothing more than sick kids or a family out of town. He knocked on the front door, called out. No response. The door was unlocked. He pushed it open and stepped inside. The smell hit him first. Sweet and sour, like flowers left in water too long. Then he saw them. 10 children laid out in perfect rows across the living room floor, each one tucked under a handmade quilt, their faces peaceful, like they were sleeping. And there was Marla Dean, sitting upright on her floral couch, hands folded in her lap, still wearing her Sunday dress from 5 days ago. She looked up at Officer Martins with eyes that had seen too much, done too much. "Ma'am, what happened here?" Marla's voice was steady, calm, almost gentle. "I gave them what their mother never could, peace. If this story already has you questioning everything you thought you knew about right and wrong, make sure to hit subscribe. We cover the true stories that leave entire communities shaken. The interrogation room at Millfield Police Department had seen its share of confessions. Drug dealers, domestic abusers, petty thieves. But Detective Robert Hayes had never sat across from someone like Marla Dean. She sat with perfect posture, hands folded, speaking in the same soft voice she'd used to comfort children for 7 years. "I want to tell you what happened," she said, before Hayes even asked a question. "They deserve to have their story told right." Hayes turned on the recorder, read her rights. Marla nodded politely like he was offering her tea. "Did you harm those children, Mrs. Dean?" "I freed them." "What does that mean?" Marla looked directly into the camera. Her voice never wavered. "Do you have children, Detective?" "Yes, ma'am." "Do you love them?" "Of course." "Then you understand. Sometimes love means making the hard choice, the choice no one else will make." Hayes leaned forward. "Tell me what happened Tuesday night." Marla took a breath, smoothed her skirt. "I made them their favorite dinner, spaghetti and meatballs. We watched a movie. I read them bedtime stories, all 10 of them crowded in my bed like puppies." Her voice stayed steady, matter of fact. "I told them I loved them, that they were good children, that none of this was their fault. And then I gave them medicine to help them sleep. Strong medicine. They didn't suffer. They just went to sleep. What kind of medicine? Everything I had, my heart pills, my pain medication. I crushed them up and mixed them in chocolate milk. They thought it was a treat. Hayes felt sick. Why, Mrs. Dean? Why would you do that? For the first time, Marla's composure cracked. Just slightly. Because I couldn't protect them anymore. Because their mother was never coming back. Not really. Because the system was broken and those babies were going to pay the price. She straightened up, found her voice again. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go. Shireen found out about her children's deaths through Facebook. A friend's comment on a news article. Oh my God, isn't this your mum? She was still in Austin, still at the music festival, still posting Instagram stories with captions like "Living my truth" and "Good vibes only." The phone call came at 2:17 a.m. on Saturday. Detective Hayes on the other end, asking her to come home immediately. There's been an incident involving your children. Shireen drove back to Millfield in Craig's car, crying and screaming and demanding answers. She arrived at the police station in the same outfit she'd worn to the concert, sequined top, ripped jeans, mascara streaking down her cheeks. The media was waiting. How do you feel about your mother's actions? Did you know she was struggling? When was the last time you saw your children? Shireen pushed through the crowd, sobbing. She killed my babies, she killed my babies. But the internet had already seen the Instagram stories, the vacation photos, the months of absence, the evidence of a mother who had abandoned her children long before they died. The comment sections were brutal. Where were you when your kids needed you? You killed them just as much as she did. Those children deserved better than both of you. The courtroom was packed for Marla Dean's trial. Reporters from every major network, true crime podcasters, curious neighbors, and Shireen, sitting in the front row, playing the grieving mother for the cameras. The prosecution painted Marla as a cold-blooded killer, a woman who had snapped under pressure and committed the ultimate act of selfishness. She didn't give those children peace, District Attorney Michael Thompson argued. She gave them death. There is no excuse for what she did, no justification for taking 10 innocent lives. The defense told a different story, a woman pushed beyond her breaking point, a grandmother who had sacrificed everything for children who weren't even hers. Marla Dean spent 7 years being the mother that Shireen Williams never was, defense attorney Lisa Carter said. She gave up her health, her savings, her entire life for those children, and when she realized she couldn't protect them anymore, she made a choice that no one should ever have to make. The medical examiner testified that the children died peacefully. No signs of struggle, no evidence of violence. They had simply gone to sleep and never woken up. Child welfare experts testified about the failures in the system, the overcrowded homes, the missed warning signs, the children who fall through every crack. But it was Marla's own testimony that would be remembered. She took the stand wearing the same type of cardigan she'd worn for 34 years. She spoke quietly, forcing the entire courtroom to lean forward to hear her words. I know what I did was wrong, she said. I know I'll go to prison. I know people think I'm a monster. She looked directly at the jury. But those children loved me, and I loved them. And love sometimes means making choices that the world will never understand. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found her guilty of 10 counts of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Marla nodded politely, said, "Thank you, Your Honor." She was led away in handcuffs, still wearing her cardigan. Shireen Williams changed her name after the trial, moved to California, started a blog about healing from trauma. She never mentions having children. The house on Maple Street sits empty. No one wants to buy the place where 10 children died. The garden gnomes are still there. The swing set still creaks in the wind. Officer Christopher Martins retired early. He couldn't get the image out of his head. 10 small bodies under handmade quilts. A grandmother who thought murder was mercy. The case sparked national debate about family services, about the burdens placed on grandparents, about the children who are forgotten by everyone except the people who love them most. Some people call Marla Dean a monster, Others call her a victim. Most people just call her complicated. But in Cell Block D at Mountain View Correctional Facility, Marla Dean is known as something else entirely. The woman who reads bedtime stories to other inmates' children during visiting hours. The one who remembers birthdays and writes letters to grandchildren she'll never see. The woman who still believes that sometimes love means letting go. The last entry in Marla Dean's journal, found on her kitchen counter, read, "I know they'll say I'm evil. I know they'll say I snapped. But I looked into 10 pairs of eyes that had already given up hope, and I couldn't bear to watch them break completely. I gave them the only gift I had left to give. Peace." 10 children died on Maple Street that Tuesday night. But the question that haunts everyone who heard this story isn't about how they died. It's about how they lived, and whether the woman who killed them was the same woman who had spent 7 years saving them. Some stories don't have heroes and villains. Some stories just have people pushed too far by circumstances beyond their control. Some stories force us to ask questions we don't want to answer. Like whether love can justify the unthinkable, whether mercy can look like murder, whether the most tragic crimes are committed by the people trying hardest to do right. Marla Dean will spend the rest of her life in prison. She'll never hold another grandchild, never sing in the church choir, never wear a cardigan to Sunday dinner. But somewhere in Texas, there's an empty swing set that still moves in the wind, and 10 small graves with flowers that someone replaces every Sunday. And the question remains, was Marla Dean a monster who killed 10 children, or a grandmother who loved them enough to set them free? The answer depends on how you define love, how you define mercy, how you define the breaking point of human endurance. And maybe that's the most terrifying part of all. Make sure to subscribe for more stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about right and wrong. And remember, the most shocking crimes often come from the most unexpected places,